So happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to our biweekly Eastside Wrap meeting where we discuss the impacts of homelessness on the east side of Santa Barbara. My name is Landon Rank. I'm the Associate Director with SB Act, and I'm joined by Liz Stotts from the city of Santa Barbara. And we are partnering together for this wrap meeting, which is a part of kind of a broader South County collaborative to address homelessness issues in our region. So we're going to get started with just a couple general announcements today. First, just a reminder that this meeting is really trying to be geared towards solutions as much as possible. So we really encourage, as much as you can, please do feel free to share concerns and questions you have. But let's try and take it out of the blame field and into the how can we find solutions together. We really want to try and figure these things out. So the more we can work together, the more effective we'll be. I do want to just share a couple dates. There's quite a bit happening in the community in the next week or so. For those of you who are aware, the Buena Tierra Permanent Supportive Housing Project opened earlier this year, and about 60 people who were formerly experiencing homelessness were able to move into permanent homes there. And they're finally having a ribbon cutting. So that'll be next Thursday at 2 p.m. The site it's the former Super 8 motel out in Goleta, in Old Town Goleta. So we encourage you to come out and join and just celebrate those who are able to move into housing there. If you're interested and you don't have John Polanski's email, let me know and I can send that to you to RSVP. The week after that, on Thursday, the 22nd, is the Fire and Police Commission meeting. And this particular Fire and Police Commission meeting will be geared towards discussing how fire and police respond to homelessness issues. Because as we know, both of those departments deal a lot with homelessness related calls and issues. And so that meeting will actually be held here at the Faro Center, 621 Chapala Street on Thursday, the 22nd at 4 p.m. So we invite you to join us just for a community conversation to learn more. Our next Eastside Wrap meeting will then be the Friday after that. And then later that day, on Friday the 23rd at 3 p.m., we'll be doing a neighborhood walk in downtown Santa Barbara, starting at City Hall. So this is where we do our walk, go into businesses, share homelessness resources with them, and also just try and engage with homelessness in that neighborhood. And then finally, our next kind of open South County collaborative meeting will be on Monday, the 9th of September at noon on Zoom. We invite you to join us. This is where we're discussing all the different initiatives that are underway throughout South County to address homelessness and kind of how this Eastside Wrap fits into that bigger picture. So I'll share that registration link in the chat window. So a lot coming up. Hope you can join us for some of these events. I also wanted to share with the Faro Center opening, we now actually have the little wallet-sized plastic cards that have the address and the hours, as well as on the backside, it has a list of all the different services that are offered here at the day center. So we're happy to share those with anyone who wants them. It's helpful just to be able to distribute them to the people who are experiencing homelessness in the community so they know where they can go during daytime hours if they're looking to get connected or get housing services or just have some food and a place to sit. We've already gotten these out to code enforcement, law enforcement, and some of our outreach teams. But definitely let me know if you would like to get some as well. It's anybody can have them, community members, whoever thinks you'd benefit from being able to share them. So just let me know. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And typically at this time in the meeting, we will open it up for questions and concerns from the community so that we can hear from them first, and then we'll go to the service providers to share outreach updates. But I first just wanted to, if it's all right, I wanted to turn it over to Herschel and the PATH team just to talk about some of the different activity that's been going on in front of PATH, because I know it's been visible for many of the neighbors this week. So I'll turn it over to Herschel.
Unfortunately or fortunately, I wasn't around. I was on vacation, but I heard about it. And so I think JV and Jeff is on the call. They had firsthand experience of it. I let them speak. I'll just say this was not the first of this experience. We shared that with Liz Stotts and others on a team with this person that's really invading the personal space of many. And so, yeah, I'm glad that we can have this conversation. So JV and Jeff.
I guess I'll start. Hi,
Go
everybody.
ahead.
Jeff. I'm the team supervisor here at PATH. And I think what we're referring to is the gentleman that has been displaying signs and videotaping people in compromising ways that would jeopardize their, let's say, their security and or privacy. And currently, this person, the last 2 days, was on the corner of Cacique and Milpas, and we did not engage. We really think that what he's doing on that corner at right now is his right. But when he intrudes on folks' safety and security and confidentiality in front of PATH, it becomes a traumatic event for guests that stay with us. And it's been challenging to interface with him when that happens. And luckily, we had law enforcement here to support our requests for him to not do that. But other than that, we haven't had any other negative interactions with this person. So that's all I can really report.
Thank you, Jeff. I don't know if Sergeant Beltran, if you want to comment as well, but otherwise we can open it up if there's any questions or comments from the community.
Yeah, only thing I had to add was just that he kind of does stuff in a very difficult way where it limits our ability to do anything, because like you were saying, he's kind of exercising his right. So we need to protect his rights just as much as we need to try to protect everyone else's. So there's limited options for what we can do, but we just try to keep the peace in any way we can. But don't hesitate in calling us anytime something's going on, so that we can be there to, one, keep the peace, but also to explore and see if he is committing some other type of offense.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Natalia.
Thank you very much, Landon. Good morning, everyone. I have a couple of questions here. So the first question is to Liz, not Liz Stotts, the other Liz. Is she not on? I don't see her.
She is not on today, but
not.
there are multiple other PATH staff here.
Okay, that could answer my question. Okay,
Yeah.
so the first one, the first question that I have is she continuing to reach out to the Eastside business community regarding homelessness?
I can maybe respond to say that, yeah, we have in place a plan to meet with neighborhoods and businesses in the area, do neighborhood walks. We haven't done that yet for this month, but it's definitely part of our plan for the fiscal year to do it more regularly as the leadership team. So yeah, that's on the cards and something that we are committed to.
Okay, thank you. So you said so nothing is scheduled for this month. It's in the plan. So when is that going to be started again? Is it next month?
Yeah, we have Liz is on vacation. We have a leadership meeting next week, Tuesday, and we can look at the dates there and share that with you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. My next question is to you, Landon. When you sent out that survey a couple of weeks ago, you and I had an interaction via email about the time frames. So I'd like to hear from you or others. Is it possible? Is it even doable if you and the other departments sitting on this call can have wrap meetings at night? If you really, I think, care about the community and really want outreach from this community, I think that should be an option, is to at least try it in the evening, being that you've never hosted one in the evenings.
Right. Yeah, in the past they did I know they did the Eastside like listening sessions in the evenings. I think that was back in 2021.
Oh,
I'll be honest, I haven't had a chance to talk with city staff about this yet, Natalia. So I'll bring this up when I meet with Barbara and Liz next week.
oh,
But yeah, what Natalia's referring to is that I had sent out that survey trying to figure out if there's a better time for the Eastside Rap meeting so we can get more community members to attend. And so obviously, it's tough during business hours for many. So we're trying to figure that out.
okay. So you'll be speaking again to Barbara next week, correct?
Yes,
Landon?
that's correct. That's
Okay,
correct.
great. Okay, thank you very much. My next question is about, of course, all the campers there that are still there on, what is it, Delegara and Quarantina, I believe. I appreciate very much the city has put out signs about not littering. So there's been a little bit of an improvement. So thank you, thank you. So is there still follow-up, Al, with you, with CityNet or other departments that are going there, talking to these people?
I can answer that. Are we talking about the people living in their vehicles on Delegara Street?
That's correct. That's
Yep.
correct. Yeah.
So yeah, that's New Beginnings is the one that's running that program for people experiencing vehicular homelessness. That's part of the state grant that they got to provide outreach services and housing opportunities for people in prioritized encampments. And they actually reported this week that they had enrolled 9 people in that area, which is a really good number. So they're in the process of going out there and enrolling clients to get them signed up into the program. Once they're enrolled, if they relocate, the funding follows them where they go. So if they move out of that area, that funding goes with them while they're looking for housing. So that's really good news. And we have a steering committee meeting with New Beginnings next week, so we'll get more updates. They are hiring quite a few staff. They've introduced a few people, and some of you know Deborah Hamrick, who
Yes.
was part of the safe parking program. She's now the program manager for that SURF 3 grant. So she's still part of the organization, and she's running that particular program. But they're out there making enrollments fairly quickly, and that area is our #1 priority site, followed closely by our area on Dwight Murphy.
Great, super. Thank you for that, Liz. I appreciate it. My last question is anybody following or checking the property where the Wells Fargo used to be? Here on Milpas, I can't remember Milpas and I think Mason, I believe, is the cross street. I've seen homeless there on that property. And so I'd like to know if anybody has started reaching out to them.
I can answer that. John and I have been by that area, I think, twice. And at the time that we were there, we did not see anyone present. We saw some belongings, but nobody was actually physically there. But we will continue to monitor that area, maybe try to go by at different times to see if there are people there that we can outreach to.
Okay, thank you. Has anybody, I'm sorry, pardon me.
I think Natalia, because we had a couple of requests and that's why the teams made it out there. So if you do, because we have made a couple of attempts, I know you reach me pretty quickly. So just let us know if you see someone so we can follow up on it, but that we'll be continuing that here.
Okay, great. Has anybody reached out to that property owner?
The time that we went by, it was closed and there was nobody present, but we will go back there and try again.
Yeah, or if you are able to get that information, if you have Natalia, that'd be great. Okay. If not, we'll look into try to get that as well.
Yeah. Perfect. What is it? Are they trespassing or are they just?
Yes, they are. They are. And I think that if the city reached out to that property owner, it would be in the city and the neighborhood's best interest, because the homeless are there. They do sleep there. I've seen them there several times. So
there seems to be some kind of remodeling or something going on inside of the building. There's construction materials around it. The last 2 times we were there anyway. And I don't know if that has anything to do with the situation, but I don't think there's any like business people actually on site, just construction workers.
Okay, thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
We'll also follow up on our end to see what we can do about that and see if there's a authority letter or PD to be able to respond.
I didn't see one. I didn't see, at least not on the side. I guess that's
Okay.
Mason. I didn't see an authority letter, but I just actually noted there is graffiti again on the outside of the sign there. On the side.
There is somebody living in that travel trailer behind the building there, and I think they might be part of the construction.
On that lot, right, Jess?
Yeah, on that lot. Yeah,
And
there's
that.
a travel trailer right behind the building with its awning up. And I think that's part of the construction what they're
workers.
going on there. Yeah, and then they do, and I do still see some random people going in and out of the back parking lot and the trash can area. And I've noticed that you guys just recently shooed the person off who had all their belongings, next to Pasternak's office on that front porch. And I know that's a big issue for the PD, because the owner doesn't really, from what I understand, doesn't really give a hoot. But yeah, that's a continuing mess. I mean, is there any other forms of enforcement that you can have with that homeowner there?
I'm sorry if I think my computer might have froze, but what was that location again? I'm sorry.
It's kitty corner from McDonald's. It's right next door to the CPA Pasternak's office. It's that
103 North Milpas, I believe.
Yeah. It's the porch where everybody has been living on randomly.
I don't know that
it's pretty well known.
hard for me to picture it.
Al, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
That
no,
White
exactly.
House.
We know exactly. Yeah, we've been going there for a while.
And they're the people that are there with the owner's permission, or they're
That's not what I
trespassing and
was
the owner
told.
is not doing anything about it.
No,
From what I was told,
it's not with the owner's permission at all. Actually, the owner will not do anything about it.
Okay.
We've had this discussion with Barbara.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I made a note of it for the PD side. We'll definitely go look at it and make sure we do whatever we can.
Yeah, we'll have
Sergeant Beltran, can you put your email address, please, here in the chat? I don't believe I have it.
Sure.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'll put it in.
And actually, one last question. Actually, it's for you, Sergeant Beltran. It seems to be on the corner of De La Guerra and Quarantina, next to all the people sleeping in their vans there. I guess that house there, right on the corner, seems to be a target for graffiti. It was just removed, and I saw that yesterday morning. There is now new graffiti there. Do gang members live at this residence? What is it with that particular location?
Yeah, that's kind of been an issue for as long as I can remember, years and years. And it's not necessarily because of anyone that lives there. It's just that wall serves as like a perfect blank canvas for graffiti is really what it comes down to. Anywhere where there's just a plain open wall like that, and then it's also a target rich environment for graffiti because it's dark. There isn't like a lot of houses directly in the area. They're off to the side, so it just kind of gives them the privacy to be able to sit there and do their graffiti. And unfortunately, we can't be there 24/7, so it's a target rich environment for it.
Have you reached out to the owners?
We have not, no.
And why?
I can make a note of that to try to do that and see if they're interested in doing something else as far as like if they want to put like a camera up or something like that, or try to do something else. We can try to do that. We haven't reached out to them, but I'll make a note of that as well.
Great, thank you. Thanks, everybody.
We have a lot of conversations about addressing graffiti impacts in private property area. This is an issue that we have citywide, so we are having conversations about how to better address those concerns. It's really challenging when it is on private property for us. So that's one of our locations. I'm not sure we have the staff capacity to be going to every homeowner or every property owner to have them fix whatever issue is causing that. But I think areas that are known hotspots, we can strategize and talk about we have other neighborhood improvement task force meetings where we do talk about not necessarily homelessness related issues, but just issues that are in need of improvement. So we can bring up those particular hotspots as
I would
strategies.
Yeah. I would so appreciate that, Liz, because it just degrades the area even more. And it's already struggling over here in the Eastside district, especially certain pockets of this district, and it just doesn't help. So thank you. Thank you very much.
I have one last
I'm looking back.
rules.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the graffiti, that is a big issue. I mean, it's like the bridges over here on Canada Creek are a constant canvas for them. But my one question to Liz is, I know when Zhao was in charge of the trash and stuff like that I was reporting, and I don't know who's in charge of it now, we were having a lot of problems with the people in the neighborhood dumping their trash in the city trash cans. And I gave addresses to Zhao in the past, trying to find who these people are and where they live. At one point, it got really bad where the trash can was on the Hutash Bridge, and that trash can got removed. And thank God there's no trash piling all around it or falling in the creek. But now it is becoming an even a bigger problem for the trash cans that are on the Canada and Cacique Bridge. People are putting their house trash in there. The seagulls are getting it. It's everywhere. Certain neighbors are picking it up. My question is can that trash can be removed?
Yeah, I see Andrew bringing his microphone down.
Yeah, I'd be happy to address that one for you, Jess. Yeah, we did. I saw through some of your emails that you sent through, and we were able to address that situation and those overflowing cans in the immediate sense. Those cans are serviced Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3 times a week. We do know, and in speaking with some of the neighbors of the area, the report was that it was likely the local mobile home park next door that did have some multi-family, homes in there and people that were not didn't have their required trash service. So what we're trying to do to sort of nip this problem in the bud, we are able to go through and review trash service, make sure that people are current with their Marburg accounts. So we're going to look in that local area specifically to see where that excess might be and start making some contacts with those property owners to make sure that their service is complete, because it is very noticeable and that it is household trash coming into there. It's bags that have obviously been completely filled. It's not just the loose litter or one-off items that those cans are actually intended for. So we do have that on the radar to kind of do a deeper dive into what the source of that issue would be. At the time, our concern there with removal is with those bridges, there is really easy access into the creeks. And I have seen a lot of trash end up in the creek right there.
Correct.
So we are concerned that if we completely remove those, especially with some of the people that do kind of hang in that area and whatnot, that will instead be having an environmental impact versus just the overflowing containers that we're dealing with now. So it is kind of a broader problem that we're looking into, and we want to kind of get as much data as possible and see if there is a change we can make with some local homeowners before we do go to the point of removing those cans.
Correct. Great. Yeah, because not very long ago, I saw a gentleman walking down the street and he had a bag of trash, and I knew where he came from. He came from the Tropicana.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's a it's a bad situation, you know. But is
Ye-
there any kind of program like for people who can't afford trash, like a low income program or something? Maybe that might help. I don't know. Just curious.
I am not currently aware of anything, but it's definitely something I can look into with the trash and recycling team here in our department.
Great. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Just wanted to circle back to the house with the porch that individuals are sleeping on. I think I was looking back at my notes, and Commander Katsapis may have been in touch with the property owner. So for Sergeant Beltran, I think he might have more information.
And Barbara does too.
Yeah,
And Barbara
I
does too.
remember
Thank you.
we had extensive conversations on that particular property and the challenges that we have with the property owner, but we can regroup, and we're always trying to find new strategies, so we'll bring that one back up.
Any other questions or concerns from the community?
Landon, I just want to highlight a few things. First of all, Andrew, thank you for coming out. I think you and Dwight have been pretty active this weekend, cleaning up our street, and I saw you out there this morning, so thank you, appreciate that. It makes a big difference, being that obviously we're trying to make the city, tidy and orderly, and that's what we do. That's our DNA. And when there's a lot in front of our building, it doesn't reflect well with us either. So it takes a village, like I've mentioned before. I did want to bring to your attention, there is an individual, and maybe Olivia, you could reach out. Maybe you already know this man. He's a very young man, and he usually is next to Johnston Supply. He appears to be going to City College and is homeless. And so these are the stories, I think, why we have this platform. Landon, you so eloquently said, like, let's not put blame to, the issues, let's bring forth solutions. So I wanted to bring this gentleman forward because, obviously it looks like he's trying to do the right thing by getting an education, but he is homeless. He has a left eye that I guess he got into a fight, and so he only has one eye. But two of my employees brought it forward knowing that we have this call. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. And then also just readdressing the street cleaning. It looked like we were cleaning the street with the power washing, and then it stopped. So just, is that something that is not regular?
Yeah, thanks, Susie. I do know that individual you're talking about. He's Dwight has almost built a bit of a relationship with him. Sometimes he's actually helped us in the area. Does still have a bit of an issue with his belongings and whatnot. It's definitely something I can kind of conference with the team on when we go to the closed portion here. But yeah, in regards to the power washing, that did get scaled back for a time, just to sort of reassess the needs of the area, and due to some budget concerns. But on an as needed basis, it is something that we can implement. So I do understand with Cacique. Even when I was down there today, since it has been less belongings, it's been more apparent kind of the condition of the sidewalk and whatnot. So I can look into arranging a power washing or a deeper clean of the street to kind of get us back to square one.
I would really appreciate that. As I mentioned a couple of weeks back when we had that situation with the individual that was being detained and then went and urinated on our fence line, right? It's, it is a daily thing that we observe, unfortunately, at work. And so, similar to the challenges you have on State Street, we want to just make sure that, it presents well and smells well, right? So, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And I just want to add, Susie, that we're trying a few new things over on Cacique. You've seen code enforcement going out there more frequently lately. We're planning on putting up signs that prohibit the storage of personal property on that stretch. So those should be coming up. I'm not sure the turnaround time for putting up signs, but we are prioritizing some new efforts in that.
Yeah, those signs, I believe those signs, I actually heard they're going to be ready for next week. So we will be putting up some things regarding storage of personal property. Just creating kind of a new dynamic there of really constant constant attention and focus on that personal property lingering around in the area.
It gives us the ability to respond a little bit faster.
Yeah. And on the PD side, the CAT team, we spend a lot of our time down there, but patrol, I don't think spends as much time as the CAT team does. So we put something at least through the end of this month where there's going to be calls for service generated at random times throughout each day and in the middle of the night to have patrol officers go down there to do premise checks of the area.
Thank you. I appreciate it, because I mean, obviously we want to create a safe space for all our employees as well as the community, right? And, you know, just the individuals that we encounter. I mean, my safety specialist encountered an individual earlier in the week in front of Iron Horse, and he's like, "Are you a narc? Are you a narc?" And, you know, so it's just, you know, we see the drug activity, we know it's there, you know, even though we have these protesters. I mean, they were showcasing the individuals that we know that are doing the drugs and selling the drugs. And so, you know, the focus, I like that we're going to put focus on, you know, the signage and the encampments and keeping our community clean and tidy and orderly. But also, I hope we can, you know, get some more messaging that, you know, similar to what we grew up with, right? Say no to drugs and Red Ribbon Week. And, you know, we have beautification goals and initiatives. And so hopefully we can push that, you know, we also don't want to support this type of activity as well. So thank you.
For PATH staff, can you talk a little bit about some of your policies in place for substance use inside the shelter, since I know it's been with that guy with the sign up raises questions, so that'd be good to remind people what your policies are at PATH and how you work to help people.
Yeah, the policy is very clear that if someone is found using on the property, it's an immediate exit. However, people can use outside of the property and come in either intoxicated or high but once, and we have had in this week, we found, a guest using in the facility, and it was an immediate exit. So yeah, we have very strict rule about that. If found, it's often not the case that we found the person doing it. We also hear rumors, but there's very little we can do, being a low barrier shelter, but we do what we can. If a person is found, it is an immediate exit.
Do you work to get those people into substance use treatment or some kind of program so that they're not just immediately thrown to the...
We work with all the partners involved, so all of them are not necessarily PATH interim housing guests. They might be from other other service providers like Be Well and Cottage. And of course, that's the more intensive case conferencing to look at what's the next step, what's the plan, how do we get someone into a sobering center. Of course, it's there when they're ready with consent, and we work with CityNet, and that has just been the shift the last few months, to work closely with partners to say what's the possibilities here and what's the best strategy. Of course, the guest and the client should also be it should also be where they are at and whether they're ready for the next step.
I know Liz had been working on, I'm sorry, I see your hand raised, Paladin.
Liz, I just
Yeah.
wanted to say that as a result of an exit from PATH, based on what she was just saying, we did actually get someone into a treatment program. We got them over to the Sobering Center, and then from there they went up to Santa Maria into a treatment program. So in some ways, their policy around that was successful with this particular homeless person as well.
And I appreciate that. I think I know who you're talking about. I think I definitely want to make sure that we encourage that aspect of, I understand the policy of immediate removal, but putting somebody back out on the street that is using, they'll usually just hang out right in front of that area. We don't want that to happen either. So definitely, I appreciated in this case, with this particular client, that you did coordinate with CityNet to make sure that they got into a facility immediately. So I hope that becomes a more standard practice rather than just an immediate exit without coordination to try to get them into services, so they don't and just end up hanging out in the neighborhood.
And that has always been my understanding, that that was the practice. There's always that question, where to, if we exit a person now, at least I ask that, we all ask that, where is the next option? If it's the street, it really requires a village. It requires all of us to think together about that, because that's clearly not what we want. So just to mention that, because you just, it's just a vicious cycle if you don't address the root cause. And often it might mean having a behavioral contract with a person, having another conversation, etc. So yeah, that is definitely our approach.
All right, let's go to these two hands that are raised. Start with Paladin.
Yeah, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. I was having problems with my sound a while back, but I had the Geek Squad fix that for me. Anyways, yes, I have not been on the rap meeting for quite some time because of some personal issues with somebody. But I am formerly homeless, and I know what it's like out there. And it was not because of drugs, alcohol, being a nutcase, nothing like that. I got slammed by the economy. I was laid off just 1 month shy of 9/11. A company I worked out in Goleta, telecommunications, and my supervisor was laid off that same day too. So I was not able to recover. Unemployment ran out on me. I cashed out my 401k. 1 year later, boom, I'm out in the streets for the first time. So I got slammed because of that economy. And I moved out to Phoenix, Arizona, lived there for over 8 years. I came back to Santa Barbara because I lost my job out there. It was a tech job, so I was not making a whole lot of money like the way I used to at one time. So when I came back, within less than a month, I wound up at Casa Esperanza. And that was my second time there. It was a nightmare before it became PATH. And I went there a third time around. A social worker helped me to get back in there. I refused. I didn't want to, but I got talked into it. And then, back off the streets again. And here's the thing. I was really disgusted with the Cacique area, with all those RVs, the way the behavior of the homeless people. I was not like that. I was like, what happened? I grew up in the Eastside. What the heck happened? What happened on State Street? I got so angry and frustrated because of the erratic, bad behavior of these individuals. I go, I'm not like that. I was a regular, average, working class Joe at one time. So, and then I started going to city council, and of course, Mr. Mayor Rouse, I'm sure he remembers me because I used to bring up these issues when he was was when I eventually got a cell phone, I used to call the police to report on the erratic behavior of homeless people in the downtown area. I even call a homeless person calling the police on other homeless individuals because of the bad behavior. So now, I don't want to take too much time here, but now that the Supreme Court, they made a decision that sleeping in public is illegal, unlawful. Governor Newsom says it's time to clean up these homeless camps, which I know it has been done here, you know, not perfect, but a little better. And even if I were still homeless out there, I would definitely be on the same lines with the decision of the Supreme Court and Governor Newsom, clean up these encampments, these homeless encampments. I am totally for all that. I really am. So my big question here is, what is the city and law enforcement and the so-called advocates here are going to do once this gets implemented here in the city of Santa Barbara? Because I know it's the entire state of California to clean it up. But here locally, what are you all going to do? With the Supreme Court's decision and Governor Newsom said, clean it up. That's it. That's all I have to say for the moment.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing your perspective as well. I can speak just briefly and say that some of this is actually already is underway, that Caltrans is beginning clearings in their Caltrans property. And so that there is some action underway for clearing encampments as a result of some of these changes.
Yeah, and you know, just to clarify, the city has been actively cleaning encampments for years. It has been a standard practice that Andrew and his team, that's their role. The Supreme Court decision doesn't change that. We've always had the policy of offering shelter and services as part of any enforcement. And due process, that with the Supreme Court's rulings, due process rights never went away. So we are still required to give people some sort of advance notice that the encampment needs to be cleared out and that we will be taking anything that's left abandoned. We still have to have that notification process, but the encampment cleanup, that those continue. And that's what Andrew is, we were talking about earlier, how Andrew and Dwight have been out there multiple times a week. That's what they've been doing, posting and removing encampments.
And from the PD side, it's kind of the same. The Supreme Court decision may have changed a few things, but it didn't really change a whole lot on our end. We still have more of a, I guess you could call it like a compassionate approach to our enforcement, where we typically like to try to offer services to go that route first. And then if that seems to be unsuccessful, then that's when we start to take more of an enforcement a role and things. That doesn't mean that we disregard the offenses that we see up front, criminal violations or anything like that, but when it relates to strictly unhoused issues or camping, we take more of a compassionate approach to that to start off with.
Thank you all. Let's go to Jess for your question.
Yeah, I'd like to go back to this path issue. I mean, I know that you don't have to be sober to be in their program there. And I know that you can go out and get high and come back. It's kind of like, you know what, these people are kind of set up for a failure, to be honest with you, because their friends are the ones that are outside that they get their drugs and do their drugs with. And it's honest God truth, because everybody knows me. Natalia knows me. Barbara knows me very well. I'm up and down this corridor every day, 2-3 times a day. I go to by path maybe once a day, go to post office. I don't understand why, and I'm not condemning you guys at path, but why don't you guys, like, say, if you're going to be here, you have to be sober. You can't come back high. I mean, a lot of other programs that are like that. I just don't understand because, like I said, they can go out, they can go get messed up during the day, but is it like, okay, as long as you come back and you don't be a problem? So that's the attitude you guys have? To me, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So this, go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of comment the example that was shared earlier about the advantage of partnerships and providers that do different things is part of what brings value to to our community, because that person that we spoke about earlier that was exited from our program because they were using, were able to get connected to a treatment program that can better resolve their needs. And I think what we see is that a low barrier shelter is just one of many options that works well for people, but doesn't work well for others. And so, I think there are a lot of people who are interested in engaging in services, pursuing recovery and sobriety. I think the challenge that we're also having is, the amount of activity that goes on in front of our building. A lot of it is it's predatory behavior. These are people who are coming to our area knowing that we are working with people who are vulnerable, who struggle with addiction, who want to do better, and this area is being targeted, and oftentimes too, folks don't realize what it is that they're taking when they're purchasing the drug. So it's an issue of being poisoned. So I think that's something that we see as well, and just trying to even figure out how to do that, because even when we go out and do our walks and we tell people to not loiter, or we see that they're selling substances, and we go out there. There's a whole sort of communication method that they have, that when they see folks coming, that they disband and then come back together. And so it's really tricky. So I think we're trying to strike the balance of how do we keep the people that we serve safe? How do we serve them well? How do we, continue to maintain a low barrier shelter that would be a complement to our community? Because there are some people that just aren't ready to move into recovery. And because maybe the recovery is a survival, or maybe that substance is a survival skill, right? Because, I don't know if a lot of folks know, but women experiencing homelessness are, overwhelming majority of women, about 80% was the last I heard, experience physical or sexual assault while on the streets. And substances is often a way to keep them awake, to keep them alerted so they can protect themselves. And so when you tell someone you can't use substances, but you have to stay on the streets, it's a survival skill. And so I think what we're trying to figure out is, like, how do we kind of balance the complexities that we see in all of this. And it's a challenge. I think we would also like to see the same outcomes that are often brought here around the loitering, the selling of drugs. Like, how do we mitigate a lot of that? So
Wanted to also add just real quick, thank you, Jonathan, on that. This low barrier harm reduction model isn't specific to PATH. This is practiced across the board, all shelter providers, rescue mission, Salvation Army. They all prohibit using Insight. And if you come in intoxicated or high, they'll let you in as long as you're not a danger to yourself or others. This is a policy that is consistent across all shelter providers. So I wanted to clarify that point. The behavior that goes out in front of PATH is definitely something that we still struggle with. And we're revamping those conversations and those strategies again to try to find ways to reduce those impacts, because we don't want that predatory behavior to be happening on people that are trying to get help or that need help, even if they're not ready to accept that they need help. So to revamp those conversations and those strategies on how to help people basically that are trying to get off the street, trying to survive. How do we do that? So we're continuing to have those conversations, those strategies.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about because, like Jonathan was saying, you know, a couple of years ago, I met a young homeless woman on the street, very young, in her 20s. And she basically, in order for her to survive, she had to get herself a street boyfriend, homeless guy. And basically, he was abusing her too. I understand that women are more vulnerable than men. Okay, well, thank you for explaining to me the little barrier. Oh, there's one other thing I wanted to ask. Over the
We got time
weekend,
for a quick
yeah,
question
real
because
quick,
we're going to need to
real
wrap it
quick.
up here, but go for it.
Okay, real quick. Over the weekend, I found the gentleman's wallet on Quarantina. And I found an address. He had two addresses. And the one address was 114 North Milton Street. I had no idea that that was a transitional home. Because there was a bunch of men in beds in there. So it was kind of weird. So, but I ended up turning the wallet over to the PD. That's right. And I just didn't know that that existed.
The cross from Wells Fargo, right around there.
Yeah, next to the canopy, the weed store.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's been there for a while. That's a sober living.
Oh, it's a sober living? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
sober
I didn't
living.
know
Yeah,
that.
so
I
yeah,
had
it's
no idea
not
that was there.
like, yeah, so it's not technically like for our unhoused population, but we have worked with them and other sober livings recently, actually, for sure, to get individuals into those as well.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you so much.
And once in a while for those, just to know, just once in a while, we are able to support and help like some move-in costs for those. If they're able to show proof of like that they can make the ongoing payment. So I know you're very good at reaching out to me, Jess, so just continue doing that for any concerns you have.
All right. Thanks, y'all. Thanks, all you.
Thank you, Jess. Thanks for your questions. Really appreciate that.
And I know that CityNet does it because they've called me like, hey, Liz, are we allowed to pay for moving costs to sober living facility? So yeah, we do know that CityNet is out there doing that kind of work.
I wanted to mention too, just because we've had several really good concerns raised about specific individuals or like specific areas of concern. I think most of you are already well aware of the SB Connect app, but please do continue using that. If there are ongoing concerns, it helps us to know like when the people are most likely present so that we can try and send the outreach teams there at the right time. If you're able to enter descriptions, exactly. So you can please do use these calls for those concerns as well. But if you're out there during the week and you see somebody, please use the SB Connect app or the link that I put in the chat window, because that helps us just get the info and we can hopefully respond to it more quickly. So. All right, we are closing in on the end of our time here. We didn't have much time for check-ins from our outreach teams today, but I do really, really appreciate the conversation. I think we covered a lot of ground. So thank you all for your feedback and questions and everything. Our next meeting will be 2 weeks from today. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Sure.
Have a good weekend.
Have a good